you ever wanted to make something just to underestimate how hard it would be to make that thing? And then as you're making it, you wonder, out of all the swords that I could have picked, why did I have to pick the complicated one with all of the weird bits on it? Yep, that's me too. Hi, I'm Komiko. I love Silas, and I decided to spend 3 months making my Love and Deepspace cosplay. But you're not worried about that. You're worried about the sword. We're here to talk about the sword, so let's talk about that, shall we? Yeah, that's fresh. This con from Dragon Con, and I actually had no intention of buying it, but I was cosplaying as Cloud that day, and this guy stopped me in the dealer's hall and he was like, hey, I'm really sorry, but I noticed you're cosplaying as Cloud, and I have a Cloud mug. And I was like, God damn it. And I was like, it's not in black, it's in blue. Black is my favorite color, so I won't be buying your mug, pushy salesperson. And he was like, I'm so sorry, we have it in black. And I was like, so I have a Cloud mug now. Anyway, I found a pattern on Etsy for the sword, so I'm going to be using this and the buying material that they have for the sword. And the other thing that I found is I actually had a friend send me a YouTube video. Apparently someone has already made the sword here on YouTube, and that video has been really helpful for me to get a gauge of the instruction. And then lastly, Kamui Cosplay also has a Genshin Impact sword that looks pretty similar to the claymore that I'm making, so I've been referencing all of those videos and resources while making this sword, since I've never made a sword before. Well, yes, I have. I've never made a sword from scratch, but I wanted this one to be EVA foam, since it'll be a little bit more durable than 3D filament, and it'll also be more lightweight. Let's get started on this sword, and I am very scared.
The pattern has a comprehensive list of everything you need to buy for this prop. I bought all of my foam from Costco for this project. I decided on low density foam since it's a little bit cheaper. Cutting the base of the sword needs to be precise if I'm to save myself the added time of sanding everything later, so I consistently make sure I have a sharp blade while cutting the foam. I have a very shaky hand, so I opted to use my quilting ruler as a guide to make my cuts look more even, but you can buy a bevel cutter for this as well. The reviews just weren't good, so I decided not to purchase one.
Here is the sword in all her sword glory. She does not fit in the camera. I still have to cut out the rocks. I think it'll be easier to cut inside and then trace that than to try to remember where all of these line up. So I'm gonna cut these out and then draw them out. This is the last design that I have to make, and then all of the pieces will be cut out. So I can actually justify going to the hardware store today, because this took about day and a half worth of cutting after this. So yeah. Okay, this is the sword. The aluminum pipe was too expensive, so I'm using dowels instead. Yes, I had to make like a Frankenstein one, but I'd rather the bottom be less secure than the top. Ideally, I would have used something stronger for the handle, but it feels pretty secure. And I've added incisions into the other side, so I'm gonna contact cement this closed, and then I'll start sanding my beveled cuts. It's very hot in the garage, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna want to film this, but yeah, I'm gonna get started.
Now I glue everything together with contact cement. Barge is the glue of choice for most, but it's $40, so I decided to use this teeny little can of weldwood, and it did the trick. It was $10, and they recommended to use the red one specifically and not any of the other colors. This glue dries pretty quickly, especially since it's so hot in my garage, so I have to work pretty quickly. For that reason, I decided to glue the base of the sword in increments. A little tricky, but it got done. A lot of the bevels that had that really tight curve, I could not get to come out clean with my X-Acto knife, so I'm gonna go in with my Dremel tool to try to smooth those parts out. With the base of the sword glued together, I'm going to work on the hilt of the sword. The hilt, the handle, something like that. The pattern calls for cutting out 4 different pieces and then gluing them together. So I'm going to do that now. And then afterwards, the pieces off to the side on the left are also going to be glued on, but after I glue on the base pieces. And here is how the base of the sword is looking. And if you think it looks like a genital, shame on you.
Did you know that you have to change the filters on your respirator? I didn't know that. I mean, I know it now, like I bought some and they're very expensive, but I guess it shows that doing your research is a good thing. Anyway, by the time you see this, I will have already finished the base of the sword, and I will be moving on to the decorations. Lucky you. I, unfortunately, am not finished with the sword. My Dremel tool sanding bit decided to secede from the Dremel, and I can't find it, so I guess I gotta take a break. Anyway, we are here to talk about rocks. Now, I cut out the full pattern for the rocks, and I counted. There's about 30, and I have to do it on both sides. So there's 60 that I have to cut out. I honestly am so mad that I'm a beginner, and this is like the first like EVA foam sword I've made from scratch, and I went, yup, that one. The one with 60 rocks and all these stupid little details on it that I don't know how to make. Yeah. But anyway, I have a lot of leftover 5mm, 8mm EVA foam, so we are going to use that to make the rocks. So let's get started.
There are all of these little rocks on the base of the sword. Actually, it's probably more of a claymore than a sword. Anyway, I cut all of these little guys out using my leftover EVA foam in the 8mm size. I used the paper pattern as a guide, but rocks aren't really symmetrical in nature, so I really don't think these need to be perfect. These get organized by number, and then I go through and score all of them. The more dull my blade was, the better it came out, in my opinion.
It's nice and cool out today, so here's some better lighting for how the sword's going. I'm gonna need to sand this, and then I also brought my X-Acto knife so I can start scoring the hilt of the sword. It's nasty because it was in the garage, so that's the one thing I hate about having to sand outside. But yeah, I'm gonna do some more sanding today, and let's see how it goes.
So, funny story, I actually lost my sanding bit halfway through sanding it while I was in my garage, so I had to buy a brand new sanding bit. This time I'm sanding outside, so if it flies away, I can actually find it. After I'm happy with the sanding on the base of the sword, I'm going to move on to the base. It's also supposed to look rocky, so I'm using my same dull X-Acto knife blade to score the jagged edges into the foam. And it's looking nice. Next, I need to prime this massive sword. Claymore. This claymore. I started off by using Plastidip. Mind you, it took 2.5 cans to get an even layer, which was not cheap considering these cans are $10 a bottle. Unfortunately, it didn't really give me an even base, so I decided to go over it with a few layers of Cosflex. It was still an uneven layer, but we're not building a bridge here. Honestly, I kind of wished I had just kept it with the Plastidip, as Cosflex and Plastidip, as I now know, don't like each other. More on that later. Next, I'm going to start off by spray painting the base of the sword with this Candy Apple Red from Rust-Oleum. This is just going to make it easier to build up the colors later.
Don't ask about the clip, okay? We're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the sword, because some things went awry when I worked on it just now. So my original plan was to paint the gradient by hand. I'm an art kid. I can paint stuff. I painted the gradient on my Oathkeeper Keyblade a couple years ago using the exact same technique of using acrylic paint and like these sponges, because it really helps to like spread out the gradient. I think what went wrong with the sword is, well, the problem I was having is that I wasn't getting any opacity. Well, I was, but it was taking like 3 coats just to get like a small amount of gradient. So I think what was happening is the primer. With my Keyblade, I used the Rust-Oleum sandable fillable primer, which has a more papery finish, and the Cosflex has a more squeaky, plasticky finish. So I think the acrylic paint was having a hard time adhering to the Cosflex primer, which now I know. I'm learning new things with this build, I guess. So the point is I tested out some spray paint, and I've noticed that I am able to get a pretty decent gradient variation with the spray paint. So I bought a darker color. I'm using apple red, and I purchased cranberry to use, so we're going to use that, and basically I'm going to showcase again trying the gradient. I didn't film it because I was, I like wanted to test it out before, and it just didn't go very well. So, but the point is that I have a new method now. So let's go back outside and try this again.
To get the gradient, I mixed a combination of cranberry and apple red from the Rust-Oleum paint line to get the gradient. I watched a couple of videos on this, and they recommended standing in different directions and spraying from far away in light mist to get an even airbrush kind of look. And I'm actually really happy with this method. It's a little bit finicky, but after a few coats back and forth, I got a gradient I was happy with. Mind the bugs, but look at how cool this gradient is. Back inside, I wanted to start prepping the rocks. After all of them were cut out, I decided to prime them with 1 layer of Cosflex and then about 2 layers of acrylic paint. Then I'm going to go through and dry brush them with the silver acrylic paint to give them more of a natural rock-looking texture. Then, using the paper pattern as a guide, I went through and hot glued all of the respective rocks to their general-ish positions. Once again, rocks are natural, they're uneven in nature, so while I did use the pattern as a guide, I didn't use it as an end-all be-all and kind of just went with the flow and decided where the rocks wanted to go. Next, we need to finish this sword. To start, I'm going to start painting the base of the sword with that same black acrylic paint. Luckily, with the already dark red base, it was a lot easier to get an even layer of opacity, and it only took around 2 to 3 coats to get this payoff.
Alright, this only took 2 coats, so that looks pretty good. The only thing I'm a little disappointed in is this, can you see that? It's like a little spiderweb texture. It's only on this side, which is the one that I did not paint with the acrylic paint. So I'm gonna assume something about spray painting over the Cosflex, or the Plastidip and the Cosflex together is probably what caused this. I've already glued everything on, and there's only about 3 parts on the back that have this, so I don't think it's worth sanding. But I am a little upset about this right here. But this looks super cool, and basically this is going to be done to this, so I need to dry brush this, but it's going good so far.
After the base layers were dry, I'm going to go in with more of the silver acrylic paint and dry brush it.
Don't these look like little centipedes? No, I can't move them. They actually look like bugs when I shake them around. Okay, so these are supposed to be gold, but I have more silver paint than I do gold. And there's no gold anywhere on my costume. So why would I put it on my little bugs? Exactly. Let's paint these silver.
I used 2mm EVA foam for this, and then I did a light coat of Cosflex and silver paint for this. Since it's so tiny and thin, I tried to be very light-handed with the hot glue so it didn't show through when I was attaching this to the base of the sword.
I know this looks a little crazy. No, I am not going to ruin my Star Guardian Zaya cosplay. I'm traumatized from all the money I spent on silicone for Pink Diamond. So I want to try this method first because it won't cost much money.
I actually tried making the molds out of hot glue and it worked pretty well. All I did was literally just apply a thick layer of hot glue and let it fully dry. With this complete, I mixed up some 2 parts resin, mica powder, and glitter to make some resin for my molds, and after these fully cured, I glued them on with E6000. Then I let the entire sword fumigate for several days before I called it done.
Look at that gradient. Oh, that's nice. That's really cool. I think the rock part is my favorite. It's lighter than the reference, but I think it gives more of a rocky texture. And I really like the rocks. I think the rocks look cool. This is the final side. Okay, now that you've seen the sword, now I can finally show you the sword with the rest of the cosplay. So let's become a dragon, shall we?
And here's how the sword looks with a finished costume. With all of the extra details, I was a little concerned that maybe I should have just 3D printed this, but it's so lightweight and durable, I think that really matters when taking it to a large convention.
As an artist, I was always taught the value of versatility with different mediums and be flexible as an artist and not just stick to one thing. I don't really practice art anymore, but cosplay feels like an art medium to me. And so the same kind of rules that I was raised on still apply. I still want to be versatile. And while I have improved in my cosplay making, like my sewing, and I think I've improved in my wig work, EVA foam was always that one area that felt like my Achilles heel. And it just didn't click to me when I first started making things. So I basically just avoided it for the past 4 years. Not a good beginner EVA foam piece. I think it came together really well. Granted, it could be better in some areas, but I'm giving myself grace because I don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay. This is a reminder to you, and also a little bit to myself. Your creations look amazing just the way they are. I actually only spent a week working on this sword, but I spent 4 months working on the cosplay that goes with it. So if you're curious, definitely check that out because it bumped me up to masters. Apologies that this is so late. I said it was going to be out in a week, and I quickly realized that I need to pace myself, and I don't know why the posting monthly thing just works for me, but it does, but I can show you the next cosplay that I'm currently working on that is going to be a bitch and a half to sew. If you know what this is for, you're the GOAT. Thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're interested in my channel. We have a small little community here that I am very happy with. And for however long you stay, I hope you enjoy your stay here. And as always, I hope you, yes, you, have a wonderful day.